But for
Did your
tonight,
boys? Oh,
we are live. We are here.
all right. Did your
This
boys
is
make that intro?
no, those were all made with different little apps and such. My boys are getting into. For those of you wondering, we're watching the intros and such. They're getting into using more motion and different software, which Steven's going to be talking about tonight. And they just created one for my daughter. My daughter's got a YouTube channel that she's going to be launching with more videos and such. And they made a really, really cool intro because they are using, again, some of the stuff I can't do it. I do basic stuff. So, good evening, Steven.
Evening. How are you, John?
I am great. I'm excited to have you on. I mean, we haven't had a chance to talk for a while, so this is great to have you on and talking about something that's near and dear to both of our worlds nowadays.
Right? I think that's how I met you. Is you had a video camera in your hand, and I said hi, and you're like hi, and you left because you had to go film something else, and I said hi again, and you were going the other way, and I'm like, maybe I'll just pin him down at the airport when in security when he has no choice.
Exactly. He can't be filming there, and if he is, he's really in trouble.
Yeah. So.
So tonight we're going to be talking about, for those of you who are out there creating your videos for your DJ company, a lot of you are doing your own editing to make your videos because, you know, it's sometimes easier, sometimes quicker, what have you. Steve is going to give us some tips and ideas and things to kind of watch out for, look out for, things to do when putting those videos together. First, I think the biggest question is for those who are thinking about getting into it. How expensive of a rig? I mean, can I do video editing on kind of a more basic machine, or how elaborate do I need to get to be able to do some editing of video?
Well, I started in high school with PowerPoint on a Windows computer. That's where I started, and I started with a camera on a tripod, and I'd make a slideshow there and do the best I could. And I'd film it literally just sticking the camera. This is before we had screencasts and all this other cool stuff that you could buy to record your screen. And I just started doing that. And then my dad asked me to do some stuff for his fire department. I'm like, okay, sure. And so then I just kept moving up. And I was so against Mac, but now I'm a Mac guy. Everything in my house is Mac. Now I'm a Windows hater and everything else. And I've drank the Kool-Aid and everything else. And so I do everything in Final Cut. I do everything in Adobe. Motion. I go back and forth between Motion and After Effects and everything else. And if I need a quick job, then I'll do it all in Final Cut because I know that like the back of my hand. And sometimes it starts before you even turn on the computer. Sometimes it starts with your gear and what you're filming with. It depends on if you're using, just an iPad, or if you're using your phone, or if you're using, do you have a nice DSLR, a nice video camera? John, you use nice video cameras. I use a DSLR. Do we get the same output? Maybe we get different outputs. Maybe we get, it's just, sometimes it comes down to an individual, what do you like? And yep. I have a Canon 70D that I use for all my videos. I did a lot of research for it before I bought it, liked it, loved it, played around with it, kept it. So, that's what I do all my videos on because it works for me. It may not work for what you're doing with the show and as much video as you guys do, but I do more short videos. I don't do really long interviews and stuff like that, like what you guys are doing. So it does. And it starts with your gear, before you even get that computer.
Yeah. And when you're talking camera, there's some things that people should be looking out for that would be, regardless of the quality level, maybe, I don't want to say that, but maybe there's some things that the units should do for sure if you're going to invest in them.
And I did. I looked at, and that's why I bought the Canon 70D. It was within a good budget. It was about $1,200 to $1,300 somewhere in there. And I wanted to make sure it had an external mic input. I wanted to make sure that it could change, because it's being a DSLR. A DSLR is a regular photo camera, what your photographers are using normally, but they could do very good video as well. So I wanted to make sure that if I zoomed, it would also refocus. The Nikon in the same area did not refocus on video if I zoomed in. I'd have to stop the recording, hit the autofocus, or I'd have to be doing it manually. And sometimes I don't really have time to do it manually, and then I just started looking at the different lenses and what I liked more and stuff like that. And Canon won me over because I already had a little small Canon camera from when I was a kid. And, I just kept going with it. And so that's kind of why I chose that. Before, I was doing everything on my iPhone and GoPros, and I still do that. And then I have a I mean, you can see the yellow case behind me. That's a drone with the 2K camera on there, and I mean, they say it's like a 2 point something K camera, but it does the job, because when it comes down to 2K and 4K, I don't have a 4K TV yet. I mean, when plasmas all first came out, did everybody go out and get them? Well, they did, and they spent 10 grand on them. And now I can go down to Costco and be like, oh, you know what? I need some strawberries, some bananas. Oh, and a new plasma, because they're just that cheap now.
and I got a coupon for the plasma, not the strawberries.
Right. So you have to think about your gear, and think about also, what are you filming it on? Are you just going to hold it? Is it going to be all, okay, I got this.
That was exactly my question. Yep. What would you recommend for those who are trying to, if I see some of them are talking that they record their receptions. What's the best way?
Get a tripod. Don't be cheap. You didn't put your speaker on the floor. You put it on a speaker stand. Get yourself a tripod. Do the same thing. You can get a tripod and a tripod to hold it up, or you can get yourself a monopod. What's a monopod? Well, a monopod is basically just a single stick. It looks like a single bar, and it basically has some little feet that kind of come out on it. And you can sit there and move it all around and stuff. And sometimes it may work for you, but I use my tripod just like a monopod. I just don't unfold the legs, and it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've learned to do. And then also, if you're thinking about, your tripod, you want to look, do you want a video tripod, or do you want a camera tripod? What's the difference? A camera tripod is not going to be able to maybe glide as much or move around as much on the head. But a video tripod may have a special arm that comes out, and you can sit there, move it around, and make it glide and make it look really nice. For me, I have a camera tripod, but I have a slider that I actually could put on there.
Yep.
And it makes it works. Again, everything comes down to what do you like when it comes down to equipment, whether you're a Windows guy or a Mac guy in editing. What do you feel comfortable with? And so that's why I can't tell people, hey, you have to have an Apple or else I can't help. Well, I can't help you because I don't know how to do it in Windows anymore. But, it doesn't come down to, well, you have to do it on a Mac to be able to make it the best video. I've seen people make great videos on Windows, and I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it does. I mean, somebody asked me while I was watching Game of Thrones, and they're like, do you think you can make that intro? And I'm like, I wouldn't even know where to start. That's got to be something crazy in After Effects. So I ended up looking up, and it was 8 different programs that took the intro for Game of Thrones, and it's a minute and 14 seconds or something like that. So who knows how much time and effort actually went into that thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And again, as we were talking before, when watching my boys go and do some things in motion and bringing it over to Final Cut and taking it back because there's this aspect and they want to do this, and then do you want to make it live editable and that's just, all this was only for a 7-second intro that was basic and simple, really. And then you see something like what they do with Game of Thrones. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's a contest out right now. It actually ends, I think, tonight. It's called the Film Supply Challenge. And you can win all this gear and go do these different things. Anyways, one of them is making a title sequence. And so I've seen some of these. I'm like, wow, that's really good. I mean, it's all fake TV shows or fake movies that people are making. And
mm-hmm.
or they can make a commercial. Or I'm actually making a trailer for a movie. And so I'm making up the storyline in a minute to see if you could understand it and do that. But it's just fun to sit there. And one thing I recommend is, Justin was saying, if you watch Justin's segment, he says something like, learn from people that have done it before, hire them. And one of the things I used to do is I used to sit there and go, well, how do you do the Breaking Bad intro? Or how do you do that? And I'd go on to YouTube and I'd find it, maybe find a tutorial on how to make this kind of intro. And I would sit there and go, okay, that seems easy. And I would go and try and make it myself just to learn the tools and, because they teach you different things, and you could learn anything on YouTube. Justin said that, and I'll say it too. Things that I wouldn't understand with how to video edit, type in Final Cut, how to do yada, yada, yada. And 12-year-old Joey will inevitably have a tutorial because that's all he does all summer long.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've mentioned on different shows that a lot of the things that my children do with their, the website and how they're able to convert to move things over. I've had talking hosting in last week's show. There's a lot of information I've gained from them, and they can talk technically and they can talk over the heads of most of us because my job is kind of like Ben Stowe shows, where I'm translating that information for why that hosting doesn't work from this particular host because of this type of a connection in a motherboard and da 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 da. These young kids, they know that because they have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Well, we grew up in a different world where, all this technology has only come upon us in the past. Well, really, that's been available to us at a cost that is affordable in the past 10 years, I guess.
For sure.
When I was a teenager and when I was your kid's age, I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. And I'm looking at how much all this stuff costs to do, and I'm like, man, that's why I chose a career path that I did, working with DJs and everything else. But now I'm like, if I was just born 10 years later, everything would be a little different,
Oh, yeah. How much it would be different. How it would be just incredibly different experience. We're going to jump to our sponsors for a couple minutes, and then we're going to come back and let's talk now some more specifics about we talked a little bit about the gear and such, but now let's talk about maybe some of the things for the nuances of kind of setting up our devices for recording, and we'll get into that when we get back. So we'll be right back. We got some of our sponsors for our DJ and TV shows for 2016.
Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
So before we went to break, I wanted to kind of ask a couple of questions, actually, Stephen, when it comes to this. My boys have been talking about, of course, there's the 2K you mentioned a little bit earlier. Right now everyone's got a 1080p. No one has a 2K really TV. 4K is out there. I mean, at Infocom last year, 8K was making its debut in some people's view. When it comes to shooting video today, and I want my video to be relevant for a number of years, am I good enough, using my 1080p gear, or should I be maybe looking at stepping up?
Well, I think it goes back to the plasma TV theory is if you are just learning, then don't go out and buy that expensive camera just because you're going to get disappointed when it doesn't look like it does on national TV, or that is going to come down in price. They always come down in price. And that's just my personal opinion. That's why I got this Canon right here. And, because I'm like, well, I'm not ready for a 4K. I'm not ready for a red camera. I want that. Do I need that? And so I base the wants versus needs. And eventually, will I get a 4K camera or an 8K or whatever is the coolest, latest thing out there when I'm ready to upgrade? Of course I will, because I'm a gadget guy. I've got when I travel, I realize, well, when I went to Chicago last year, I'm sitting there and I'm walking through this ghetto area where this bus driver told me, hey, don't get off the bus here. You're the only white kid right around here. And I realized, I've got $5,000 worth of crap on my back. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't get off because I've got my camera and everything else with me. So you have to think about, what is your goal? What is your end goal? What is your starting with why? Like Justin said, I mean, if you don't have the book, get the book. What is why you're doing this? Are you filming it just so you could have some reels for your DJ company, or are you filming this because you want to do the actual wedding video for them now? I've moved out of DJing so much, and I only DJ word of mouth by now, and I'm starting to do wedding videos just because that's where what I want to do is do that sort of work. And so I think the gear issue, what is it you're looking for? What is your end goal that you want to accomplish? You do want to make sure you can do, on my DSLR, I could do 24 frames per second, which is what we're used to seeing movies in, is about 24 frames.
Right.
If you are doing sports, like when we're watching, what's the latest movie that just came out, that the X-Men movie, so fast action stuff, it's filmed at a higher frame rate, so you can see more details because it captures more. I mean, maybe X-Men isn't the best example because that's probably all filmed in like a 300 frames per second or even more, when it comes down to motion pictures. But for you and I, when we're filming a wedding video, do we need 24 frames or 60 frames? What are we doing? The bouquet toss should be 60 frames per second. It'll catch that detail. Do I need to have 60 frames per second for the ceremony? No, they're just standing there. You could do 24. But if you do it well enough, you can sit there with your color blends and everything else, make it look good so that you can all blend it together and not use so much memory, because the more frames per second, the higher quality, the more memory it's going to take, the more SD cards, the more hard drives you're going to need. So you have to think about how much do you have out there, and you don't want to run out of room and you're halfway through a wedding. So think about what you're filming and what you're filming, how you're filming it for, and everything else in between.
Mm-hmm.
So
very cool. Very cool. That is do you, as far as the difference between file saving for the file formats for saving and different things, there's different things on the Macintosh. I see there's we've seen the .move, the MOV, the MP4, and there's another one I've been seeing on my Apple. Is there one that is more universally used than other ones that, say, if I'm going to export a video to send to a bride, that I should use, or what would be your recommendation there?
When it comes to sending, if you're going to send her the hard copy, then I always go with the highest quality I could get out of that. But then Apple also has, with Final Cut, they have that compressor program, which basically you can sit there and go on in and create your own settings so that it's the same. So like, let's say you want to send it to the bride. This is your bride profile sort of thing. And you send it to them the same way every time. If it's just in Final Cut, a lot of times people are fine with just throwing it up on YouTube, and you've seen the imperfections, but they don't know. They didn't watch the video 20,000 times in that 1/10 of a second that you did editing it. So you see these imperfections, and we're our own worst critic. Is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I just basically use the basic settings in Final Cut if I'm going to export it from there, and just kind of tweak them around from there if I need to. I think it's done just like I don't put a case on my iPhone because Apple makes a superior product, I think. I mean, maybe those Android users are cussing at me in the chat now, but I'm happy. It works for me in the settings. I do think about who am I sending this to and who is it going for, and I haven't made any motion pictures, so I don't really worry about the output being this or that sometimes, and sometimes I do,
Mm-hmm.
So.
You mentioned, of course, having a setting for like output. So are you exporting like for with 1080p, at 24 frames? You mentioned that earlier. Are there any other settings that you would recommend? Like there's a bitrate setting, and may not. What type of things would a person be doing there?
When it comes down to some of these internet settings, since they're changing so much, and I know that YouTube, it just seems like in the past year or so, it started doing 4K. Maybe it's been a little bit more. What am I trying to say? A little bit sooner than that, or a little bit later in life. Then I'm like, oh, okay, so now you could do a higher quality. Like in our show here, you could do it in a 720 because it's live. And I think after processes, can you watch it in a higher quality? I don't know. I know that.
No, we can't. No, this is 720 is what we get. We have the option through YouTube Live where we can send out a 720 1080p, or if we wanted to send out a 4K. As some of the people were talking about in the chat room, is just the amount of data, and you mentioned that also. I've got a 20 meg up and down. It can handle a 720. We go to a 1080 and it could barely handle a 1080. If we go to a 4K, it won't touch a 4K stream. It's just, we can do it. We could send it out. You and I would look pixelated anyway because we don't have 4K cameras on us. We're using webcams in essence, but.
So when it comes down to video output, I usually just do at least a 1080 at the minimum. If I could do it higher, then I can, but it does come down to, how long do I want it to load on their screen, and do I want it to take forever for them to watch the highest quality? Because for me, my YouTube settings are defaulted to play at the highest quality. So sometimes I load up a video, I'm like, why isn't this loaded yet? Oh, my internet sucks. That's why, because it keeps wanting to do this 4K, and I don't have a 4K screen here, so why am I trying to watch it in 4K?
Yeah, for sure.
When I first got my Mac and I hooked in my external monitor, I've got a Retina here, and then I've got this old external monitor, and I'm like taking off my glasses, look at my Retina, and putting them on back on to sit there and look at my regular screen over here because it's such a big quality difference. Mm-hmm. But for most of us, we're sound guys, we're audio guys, and we're sitting in the bar and we're going to bet all our friends, hey, look, I bet he's going to play this song next. And they're like, what do you want to bet? A beer. And half the time you could win the beer because you're a DJ and
Yeah.
When it comes down to video, because you're an audio guy, maybe you're like, you didn't see that little glitch in there. I mean, I've edited videos and I'm like, I've got to get this video out. And then I'm like, okay, I know that mistake's in there, but hopefully nobody sees it. And I turn around in the room to see if the 500 people watched that mistake, and nobody shriveled except for me. I'm like, okay, nobody caught it. Good. Yay.
Yeah.
Because I didn't catch it till the very end. And I'm like, I don't have time to edit that. It's already exporting. Oh, crap. What do I do? So
it wouldn't be the first. I know exactly what that's like.
No.
Oh, there's that. Should we? I don't. No, we can't. We don't have time. It's got to go.
Yeah. For me, it's about passion, and I know we gotta wrap up here. So for me, I know it's about passion. What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about your business? And if you are, which you've poured your blood. I look at it like this: is last year I went to a Tony Robbins event, and I went to two different ones, and one I was a participant, and the next one I crewed in and volunteered at. And I sat there and I came up with this idea, and it's called, and I bought Bamf.cool, not for the cussing side of it, but for badass marketing films is why I bought it. And because you have a business, you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears, all your time, all your energy into whatever it is, then why are you doing a crap job on your videos? Mm-hmm. Yes. Why are you posting videos that are shaky? Why are you posting videos where you're talking bad about a bride? Or because it's going to get shared out there, and it's gonna happen to hurt your business in the long run. So I say post videos that are good, because if you're creating a video, which is, in my opinion, videos are for cats and cute dogs, but you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into your business. Make a movie, make a film, because tell me the last time you watched Jimmy Fallon, or you watched, any show, do they say, welcome John Young, his new video is going to be out in theaters this week? No, they say, welcome John Young, his new film, his new movie. Because that film, that movie, that reality takes you out of your reality for two and a half, 3 hours. You go into a different world. And so what you want to do with your clients is you create that marketing message within your film, within your movie, is to take them to a new place, whether it be for your brides, whether it be for your high school dances, or just a little backyard barbecue where you're going to DJ. You want to take them to another world in those few minutes that you have them captivated. You have about 10 seconds to grab them on YouTube, and then they could be gone. So make sure your audio is good, your video is good, and your intro. Get custom titles. Don't use the ones that are in there. Hire somebody. Use Odesk. Just like Justin was saying. Is it expensive? Yes, it can be. Can it be cheap as well? Yes, but use the custom fonts and everything else for your business. Don't be cheap.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
That's my soapbox for you.
There's
There.
your soapbox. Thank you, sir. We're going to bounce your gang because we got to switch feeds. I'm going to put the next show in with Casey. He and I are going to be talking games in just a couple of minutes. And as you can see, Casey's in here with us, and we'll be back to you in just a couple. Stephen, thank you very much for being on. We will catch up later, my friends. We'll catch you guys in just a couple of minutes with our next show.
All right, take care.